Shalom to Dr. Gadi Taub, author of The Global Elites and National Citizens, The Attack of the Upper Classes on Israel's Democracy.
Shalom, Yoni.
So as around the world we're used to defining society by dividing right versus left, you're saying that in this generation, the rift is to be defined differently.
Yeah, I think I'm not the only one to say that the ideological struggle is between the cosmopolitans, the globalists, and on the other hand, the patriots. But the book tried to tie all this into an observation which itself is not new between what David Goodhart called the anywheres and the somewheres. Those who live in a cosmopolitan environment, who can take their laptop and work somewhere else, whose milieu is also international, who go to international conferences and feel comfortable abroad, and those who are more strongly tied to their roots. And suppose you have a mom and dad hardware shop, you can't just move it to Cincinnati tomorrow, or to Bangkok or to London. So between these two groups, I think there's a struggle over the future of the nation state. And it's customary in political thought to say that the liberals are those who oppose nationalism. And if you look at this differentiation, you tend to think that democracy is on the side of liberals. And what my book tried to say is that the liberals are attacking democracy and are trying to find ways to impose liberalism from above, because they generally think that the national citizenry is not enlightened enough to get the political power that democracy grants them. So they don't deserve because they are portrayed as xenophobes, they don't deserve their share in sovereignty. So if you look at this struggle all around the world, you see the same thing. The Remainers in Britain, who want to keep Britain in the UK inside the European Union, have generally branded the Brexiteers xenophobes, while the Brexiteers fought very clearly to gain back control over their own democracy. So I think the main struggle is liberals who are now anti-democratic.
But everyone wants to be global to some extent.
No, I don't think everyone wants to be global. I think people are very deeply tied to their national identity, to their language, to their heritage, to the geography of their country. And we Jews tend to think this is a special thing, that Jews love the land of Israel. But it's not a special thing. It's a special thing. Almost all nations, probably not the Roma, the Gypsies, are probably the exception, but almost all other nations are tied to a specific geography. So the attack on national identity is the attack on your ties to your own tradition, in what I think we should call the right to be yourself in terms of a national identity. So it is these elites that are attacking the national identity and the nation state from above via international organizations, human rights as opposed to civil rights, and from below with the politics of identity. And almost always they support unlimited immigration and oppose the national identity. But if you weaken the nation state, then most of the citizens remain powerless. So in all those international structures like the EU, or more the flimsier ones like the UN, in these institutions, only elites have power, and national citizens are defending their right to self-determination.
So let's take it to the field. How do you see, first of all, what's happening in Israel in terms of Netanyahu's role in this battlefield?
I think all over the world now we are seeing an attempt to transfer power by these elites, to transfer power from elected bodies to appointed bodies. And in Israel, the courts are uniquely strong. There is absolutely no formal limit to their authority. They see themselves as holding the power of last decision in every conceivable branch of government, in any conceivable policy. And they're trying to impose their liberal views as against democracy. The most striking example, by the way, is their very successful attack on Israel's immigration laws, using Israel's basic law of human rights. So this is a classic example of how human rights are used as a tool against civil rights, because then you start asking, why do illegal immigrants don't deserve the same right that everybody else has? And this is a demagogical argument, because of course citizens have civil rights, and this is and the attempt to equate the two is an attempt to erode the very institution of citizenship. So the courts are doing that. Now Netanyahu has legal trouble, and I'm afraid to say that this takes out a lot of legitimacy from the right's attempt to restrain the courts. But nevertheless, I think the situation in Israel has become so bad that if every politician who tries to reform the courts ends up with some form of criminal investigation, then I think we're at the state when only a prime minister who is already under criminal investigation will have not just the courage, but the lack of alternative, but to try and face this, the growing power of the judicial system and its tentacles.
Now, regarding the United States of America, Donald Trump was no doubt part of this war that you're talking about.
I think Trump has disrupted the bipartisan consensus over what I call the Nayadim, the somewheres, the globalists, and we are seeing their revenge now. And not incidental to his struggle, much like ours, is the issue of immigration, which, again, in this case too, is trying to use human rights, universal human rights, in order to undermine the specific rights of citizenship. I think he's also disrupted the language that the political elites in America use, and they use it to camouflage the fact that the Democratic Party is the party of the strong and the rich. And so in order to camouflage that, they use the politics of identity, which are usually good only for members of identity groups that have already reached the elite. And it is much easier to appoint a cabinet secretary who is gay or black than to help the black community in general. And you would also note that minorities are beginning to understand this, because more blacks and Hispanics voted for Trump in 2020 than they did in 2016.
Now, could it be that Democrats will benefit from all these immigrants because at the end, in 4 years from now, they will be voting for them in the ballots?
I don't know, and I think that in the long run, they shouldn't be so sure that immigrants would vote for them, because immigrants don't necessarily like more immigrants. And if all your welfare systems are overwhelmed, then I'm not sure immigrants will vote for California-style bankruptcy.
Now, back to Israel, when it comes to the debate regarding illegal immigration, that debate has become very, very emotional, very harsh.
I think that everyone who is trying to oppose unlimited immigration is portrayed as minimum pseudo-fascist and at worst a racist. This is, of course, a form of slander, not a form of argument, because it has nothing to do with race. It has a lot to do with the fact that if you want to defend the political sovereignty of citizens, then you cannot have unlimited immigration.
Dr. Gadi Taub, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.